1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All
one of resistance.
we are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Star Wars Reactions, your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age. We got a action-packed show for you today, start to finish. We're talking Bad Batch and a whole bunch of other stuff, so we're not going to waste any time getting things going. My name is Aaron Harris. I am one half of your hosting team here, and joining me is the AP5 to my chopper, the David Motters. David, brother, how's it going?
It is going. Perfect example. I love being a Steven Stanton voice character, AP5 from Rebels. Love it. And you as Chopper is so apropos. As always, ready to react and looking forward to talking Bad Batch with you, brother.
Excellent, excellent. I can't believe it took me 44 episodes to come up with that one.
That's probably perfect, almost perfect.
Love it, yes. So, we got a great episode. First off, everything going good on your end?
Yeah. You know, that first week of May, you know, Star Wars Day, you know, May 4th, that was busy. And we followed that up with Lena's ballet later at the end of that week. So that was key to get through. And then last week wasn't so bad. And so far this week, pretty good. And how are you doing down there south of me, buddy?
Well, all good on this end. Just keeping busy, working hard. All of my kids' recitals are this weekend. So I'll be streaming Bad Batch on my phone Friday.
Nice.
While I am at dress rehearsals and stuff. So I will tell you this, though. I did get something really cool. Well, I got something really cool, but I'm very disappointed in it. Let's put it like that. I actually snagged I got it off Amazon, the Gentle Giant 1/7 scale Clone Wars Kenobi bust.
Oh.
And it arrived broken.
Oh, no.
I was devastated.
Oh, my gosh.
So it's sitting here sealed in its box next to me with his broken hand, holding the lightsaber where his lightsaber should be. And they're sending a replacement, and I'm not sending the broken one back till the replacement arrives. But yeah, I was all excited when it arrived, and I ripped the box open, all excited, and I'm like, oh my. I was like, hello there. That's not good.
No.
So,
that's cool you're getting that, though, man. You've got some pretty cool stuff.
It's a cool bust. I really liked it. It was something I didn't know that was out there, but I saw them advertising the Anakin one that they're releasing here soon, and I'm like, oh man, that's really cool. I wish they would do an Obi-Wan. Then I was looking on their website and at the Anakin one, then at the bottom I was like, you can also get Obi-Wan. I'm like, oh snap, it's already out. And it's sold out on their website. I'm like, okay, well, that stinks. So I started looking and found it on Amazon still and bought it there, and it arrived broken. So hopefully they supposedly are sending me a brand new one. Should be here they gave me a 2-week window. So I don't know what they're doing. Normally it takes 2 days and 2 weeks, but I don't know.
Well, send pictures, man, or I guess post them right on Instagram.
Yep. As soon as the whole one arrives, I will. I guess I could post pictures of the broke one, huh?
Before, after.
Yeah. Exactly. So, all right. Well, let's get going here. We got a little bit of news I do want to discuss. Some of it real big, some of it just fun. For those of you who are on the TikTok app, Mark Hamill is now on TikTok. Luke Skywalker himself just surprised everybody out of the blue this week, showing up on TikTok. Started off with a TikTok about his dog, which was awfully cute. So he's there now, so you can find him there on the TikTok app. It's his standard screen name, Hamill himself. So look him up, find him, follow him, and enjoy, because he always has interesting stuff he posts. So follow Luke, follow him. So, but the big news that happened, we posted earlier, or late last week when it broke. But the dates for Celebration 2022 have been changed. And this is not a bad thing. They're moving it up, so you do not have to wait as long to go to Celebration. Now, originally, Celebration was scheduled for August 18th through 21st, 2022. But now it is going to be May 26th through 29th of 2022. So literally almost a year away.
Yeah, from now.
Yeah. So we're getting close. It's still going to be in Anaheim at the convention center there. That has not changed. Unfortunately, I know it's still over a year away. Unfortunately, it's still probably something I will not, unless there's a huge change in my financial status, I won't be at this time. It's just hard flying cross country and everything to get it done. But it's looking like it's going to be, it's just going to be a blast to be able to, it would be a blast to be there and just be among Star Wars fans again.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I would love for us to get out there to that. I mean, of course, you and I wanted to try to get up to Chicago, but the problem there was it was cost prohibitive as well. We talked about flying, really even driving, sharing the cost, but hotel room, Chicago is not cheap. That's the thing. It just starts to get pretty cost prohibitive. And plus, tickets are sold out. The only way is over the next several months if they put more on sale. But the problem there is how quickly people get online, and they typically do it when I'm at work. And so it's real difficult. I know, when you and I were at Celebration in 2017 in Orlando in our backyard, one of the complaints was the number of tickets they sold, but it allowed a lot of people in, and it was packed. But the Orange County Convention Center is huge. It's huge. Yeah. If I remember correctly, it's bigger than Anaheim's, I think. I mean, I've been to both convention centers, but, do you have a smaller amount? Is it better? Of course, we'll see what COVID's like a year from now. Hopefully it's completely gone. But I did notice, too, buddy, that it's 4 days instead of 5 like it was in Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that it is. So it's going to be interesting. I know they do have some social distancing guidelines and masks and stuff for COVID guidelines they've already released as to what's going on. So if you're going, make sure you check out those, because it will be even though you will be having Celebration, it will be a little different celebration. I mean, when it comes to masks and helmets and stuff like that. I think somebody wrote somewhere that they weren't going to allow any masks, any like helmets and stuff, because you have to wear a mask, and they can't see you're wearing a mask if you're wearing your helmet. So
Exactly.
Little things like that, which will complicate things, especially for groups like the 501st and stuff, which makes me curious how that'll work out.
Yeah.
But either way, we're having Celebration, y'all.
Yeah. And plus, I know I've tried to watch as much coverage as I possibly could of Chicago, and I felt like I had a really good feel for it from the main panels. And, it's nothing like being there with you and other Star Wars fans. But when they live stream it, it makes it really nice.
Oh, it really does. And I'm glad they started doing that. I mean, unfortunately, they don't do all of the panels, because I know there was a panel in Chicago that I wanted to see that they never streamed. and some of them one panel that they did stream, but they only streamed like 20 minutes of it because it was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that they didn't want streamed. So I was like, killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
Yes.
So,
killing me, Smalls. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. We'll have some good stuff going on, and of course, we'll cover it when it happens, and we'll go from there. It's going to be great for sure. And let us know if you're going, though. If you are going to Celebration in Anaheim in 2022, let us know, because we want to hear about your experience there. Hear what it's like, hear what you did, and just give us a play-by-play. So, all right. So, news-wise, that's all we really wanted to get into today. We do have something we've not actually done before on the show. There are, like we mentioned in our last episode, when they released the first episode of The Bad Batch on May 4th, they also released two series of shorts. One was called Star Wars Biomes, and the other Star Wars Vehicle Flythroughs. And of course, we told you about those last week, and I hadn't seen them yet. And I told you this week I would tell you what I thought of them. So we're going to do what we call our Star Wars reactions mini review, because there were many episodes. So we're going to start off with the Biomes short. Is literally what it is. It's an 18-minute short. Which isn't really that short. It's 18 minutes. But it's 18 minutes long. And it's just a series of flyovers of different planets from the Star Wars universe. Hoth, Tatooine, Mustafar. It's stunning imagery. The graphics are absolutely stunning. The interactions are awesome. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was relaxing. To me, David, it felt like being on Soarin' at Epcot. I love that ride. It's my favorite ride at Epcot. But it reminded me of being on Soarin'. And I can see them doing this with Soarin'. Throwing this track up and just soaring through over these landscapes, which would be an awesome idea. If somebody from Disney is listening, please make that happen. It'd make a great addition to Galaxy's Edge. I would love it. But it was great. And just seeing the random ships, like on Hoth, you had some snow speeders fly by. You saw some AT-ATs walking by. You saw the Imperial probe and some Tauntauns, and it was just a lot of fun. Those were just added bonuses, but just seeing the landscapes was awesome. The porks flying by on I just blanked on the planet.
Ashto,
that's right.
Yeah.
The porks flying by on that was awesome too. So I really enjoyed this one. David, what did you think of Biomes? I know you saw it last week and said you liked it, but what are some more thoughts overall on it?
Well, yeah, when you mentioned Soarin', I mean, that's, I thought of I think I mentioned it last week that, on Disney Plus, I've gone to, what is called environments or whatever, and you can watch the sunrise over the Magic Kingdom, and it's over the process of an hour, and it's so relaxing, so beautiful. I think they do it up over the Tree of Life as well. So there's several of those. I also mentioned the Arendelle Castle. I think that's like 3 hours. You can just sit. I put it on during Christmas time. I just turn the TV on, put that on, and periodically I would hear Olaf run by chasing leaves, and but I just looked how long it was, and like you, I'd love for it either to be an option. Ideally, it would be a ride at Galaxy's Edge, because they do need a third ride there. I would, especially with how jam-packed Rise of the Resistance is. The Millennium Falcon ride, is great as well. Been on that with you. I'd love to see a relaxing ride like this, where just like Soarin', you sit there, it's relaxing. You got air conditioning because it's Florida. and it would just be really cool. So either, make them 1, 2, or 3 hours long, and have them on Disney Plus, and I can just put it on in the background. I'd leave it on all the time, or make it another ride at Galaxy's Edge. I mean, the other option is at Epcot. I've been in there, and I've ridden Soarin' a number of times, and if they give you an option, you go to the right. Hey, here's the usual sites. Take a left. You can get the Star Wars version of Soarin'. So, they could try it out there first before doing something at Galaxy's Edge. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was such a great little treat on May the 4th.
It truly was. It was a great little treat, and it was really enjoyable. So I liked it. I really liked it. The second shorts they did was called Star Wars Vehicle Flythroughs. These were, they actually released 2 episodes of this. It's about 2-3 minutes apiece. And it basically just gives you almost like a video tour of a vehicle from Star Wars. Episode 1 they did was about the Millennium Falcon, the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy. And, of course, episode 2 would be the First Order Star Destroyer. Overall, not my favorite, to be honest. It was, the visuals were excellent. Don't get me wrong. The visuals were excellent. And it was a stunningly beautiful to watch. The Falcon was a little more enjoyable because I knew what I was looking at for the most part, because the Falcon's well known and its design and everything that you've seen. Whereas the First Order Star Destroyer, you haven't seen that much of. So going through that ship like that, and with there being no voiceover telling you what you're looking at, no captions on the screens, or anything saying this is your engine room or you're on the bridge, to let you know where you are, you just have to try to feel your way through it. And it was I was lost. It was not real conducive for me to enjoy, because I couldn't tell really a lot of what I was looking at on the Star Destroyer. But I mean, it was pretty to look at. It was gorgeous to look at. But overall, definitely not my favorite. What did you think of the Vehicle Flythrough? Have you watched them both yet?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm a mirror image of you there. They're very cool. The graphics are incredible. I love seeing that, especially the Falcon. Of course, you and I've been in the Falcon in essence, right, at Galaxy's Edge, and taking pictures inside there at the Jarek table, and you and I've walked through there and what they offer, and it's just gorgeous what they've created. They don't have that in existence, for a Star Destroyer, a regular one from the original trilogy or a First Order one, but at least at any theme park. But I found them underwhelming. Yeah, even the Falcon, I'm like, yeah, it's cool. I've seen this. I guess I'll never get tired of being inside the Falcon, but yeah, am I going to go back and watch these? No. Am I going to go back to Biomes and turn it on and hit repeat? Absolutely. So that's the difference. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So, yeah, we're a lot in line in the thoughts on that. So, let us know what you think. We'd love to hear what you thought about these shorts if you've gotten to watch them. So let us know. You can, of course, hit us up on social media. Facebook, we're back on Facebook, y'all. Twitter, Instagram, wherever. Or email, show@StarWarsReaction. And you can let us know what you think. So, all right. So we got an action-packed show still to come. We got our review of episode 3 of The Bad Batch Replacements, which we are going to go ahead and get going here. Episode 3, The Bad Batch, titled The Replacements. This episode was released on May 14th, 2021, written by Matt Michnovitz and directed by Nathaniel Villanueva. So, good episode. So, after escaping the planet I cannot say.
Do you want me to say it?
Yes.
Seleucami.
That one. After escaping planet Salami, the Bad Batch must set down on a planet to make repairs to their ship. While they're there, a creature makes off with a vital piece of equipment, leading to Hunter and Omega to going out to track down the creature to regain the part they must have for the ship. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Tarkin and his newly promoted Admiral Rampart place Crosshair in command of an experimental unit of conscripted soldiers and send them on a mission to Onderon after Saw Gerrera. When they arrive, though, they find Saw's people, but no Saw, and they won't tell where Saw is. So Crosshairs has them executed. The episode ends with Tarkin being quite impressed with the success of the experimental squad, especially when they succeeded, to quote him, they succeeded where the clone squad did not. And, of course, for the Bad Batch, the part was recovered. The shuttle was able to depart the planet. Omega was given her own room on board the ship, and ends with Crosshair seeming somewhat uneasy back in the bunk room, the old Bad Batch bunk room, with his new squad. There we go. So, David, what were your initial thoughts when you watched Replacements?
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting as you get into a series, and you're super excited for the first one. How good is the second one? Now we're in the third one. But I enjoyed this episode, and I put in the show notes, I really enjoyed watching it for a second time on a larger screen. I know you mentioned earlier in this episode, with all the recitals coming up, you'll watch it on your phone. That's I typically do on Friday mornings when I get a spare minute here or there. I'll watch the episode, and with it being so dark, it was hard to see a lot of stuff. So when I got home, I watched it, Friday night, and it just really popped. It was real nice to see. I did want to say that, in terms of this initial thoughts section, I did like how Omega, she makes an argument that she's part of the squad and should be able to help Hunter find the creature, which is an Ordo moon dragon, and help find the part. And historically, what we see in TV shows and cartoons and so on and animated shows is the adult saying no. But here, Hunter doesn't say no. And even the other members of the Bad Batch look and give a nod and say, yes, let's do it. If she's going to be with us, she's going to be part of the squad. Again, not that I would allow my daughter out there and crawling down into Ordo moon dragon holes and finding those things. But instead of saying no, Hunter says yes. And it doesn't lead to her having to sneak off the ship and to disobey, what her elders are saying, and so on and so forth. That's the usual trope, right? The kid is told no, they do what the parent, the opposite of what the parent says or parent figure, and there you go. But other initial thoughts, I have to admit, I didn't quite understand what went down between Omega and the Moondragon down in the cave there. She was flashing the flashlight in his face. It's mad. She didn't shoot. Somehow she, resisted shooting. And then I don't know, she gave it the flashlight and took the needed part. But again, I'm not quite sure what happened. I don't know if she made a connection or what. Flipping to the, like you'd mentioned in the synopsis, flipping to the other side of the galaxy is all the stuff progressing on Camino. And I'm loving that. The conversation between Lama Su and Nala Se suggests to me, at least, that they want genetic material from one of the Bad Batch. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. But those are just some of my thoughts on kind of both of the kind of the parallel stories during this episode.
Very good, very good. My initial thoughts, a little different than yours. I thought the episode was okay. It was okay. It wasn't good or great like the last two. I thought it was okay. There were things that I had issues with, mainly being Hunter taking Omega on a hunt for a quote unquote dangerous creature, and things I enjoyed, like, seeing that transition begin from clones to human stormtroopers. I enjoyed seeing. That's something, everybody is a bit curious about for a while, as how this transition took place originally. So that was really good. And I do want to say this. I think the writers are doing a great job starting to set up Crosshair's redemption story. Because what is Star Wars without a redemption story? And it's going to be Crosshairs. And I like how they're linking it into the inhibitor chip in Order 66. Because what line has he constantly said in every episode? Good soldiers follow orders. And that's what we hear the clones say when they're enacting Order 66. Good soldiers follow orders. We heard it in the Clone Wars. We heard it in episode 1 of the Bad Batch. And we're hearing it again in this one. So I like those aspects of it. But overall, for an overall episode, I was just like, my initial reaction was like, it's okay. And to be perfectly honest, it was one of those episodes that when it went off, if I would not have had to sit down and record this episode review with you, I probably would not have watched it again. That's how I felt about it. But it is what it is. So it does have some good things, and we will discuss that and go from there. But first, we're going to take a quick break. Then we'll be right back, and we'll jump into some of our talking points for this episode. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We are talking Replacements, Bad Batch episode number 3 tonight. So let's get right into it. First thing I want to notice, and we're 3 episodes in, and I'm just noticed this. And I'm really mad at myself that it just shows that, when it first comes on, I'm not paying that much attention till I actually hear the music. They redid their intro for this show. Did you see that? The Lucasfilm logo.
Well, right. You mean, yeah, it's the that whole little thing that they show.
The characters flash through.
Yeah, those profiles. And it's kind of, obviously you and I, all of us were first introduced to it as a little clip before The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and it ran with, Kylo Ren and Vader and characters, Star Wars characters. This one is a lot different. This one's starting off with, it starts off with, what's his name? Grievous.
Yeah.
General Grievous. And then it just starts rolling through, and it's got Chopper in it.
Yeah.
It's got Chopper.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got Sabine, and it's got Ezra's helmet. It's got helmet. It's got a commando droid. It's got Chopper, dude.
Yeah.
How did I miss this?
I know, and I feel bad now, that I didn't mention that to you. I guess I didn't know if you. I guess I thought you saw it, and you were like, okay, cool. It's more characters, and we'll probably see more at before Kenobi and before these different television series. But I just feel like apologizing to you that I didn't point that out to you. I feel like a bad co-host.
I feel like a bad co-host because I didn't notice it. Here I am doing a Star Wars podcast, and I didn't notice something small like that. But dude, it blew my mind. When I saw Chopper, I'm like, oh, no, it's not. And I rewound it and watched it. And I went, yeah, no, it can't be. My eyes are playing tricks on me. I rewound that thing 5 times before I actually accepted the fact that my little Chop Man is in the title.
Well, what we know now is that you like it more than this. this episode.
Oh yeah, I was more excited about that 5-second intro than I was the episode. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. If it's got Chopper, look out.
It's got Chopper. Hey, that should bump this episode all the way up to an A+ then.
That's right.
But yeah, no, I mean, how did I miss that? I don't know. I just need to get that out of the way. That rocked my world for a little bit. Let's take a look here. I mean, the episode starts off with our Bad Batch buddies flying through space, and they're having issues with the vehicle, and then of course they have to set down. But Tech is working on something really interesting, and I have some ideas about. I think I know where it's going, but he says he's working on a scanner to assess their inhibitor chips, which I found interesting. I found it interesting, and we know for a fact that a couple of them get their chips removed.
Right.
This could be part of the removal process. I don't know. But this I found very interesting, that he's building a scanner to assess their chips, even though he knows they're damaged and defective. But they're assessing the chips. They're concerned about mind control. And that actually comes up later in the episode when they're talking about Crosshair possibly not being in control of his actions because of the chip. And even Omega says, well, that's what it's designed to do, is to control you, essentially. So I think that this brought her to realization that Crosshair may not be in control of everything he's doing at this moment. How did you feel about that whole scanner and where they're going with that discussion with Omega?
Oh, I really love it. In fact, last night, I was looking at our show notes here, and you and I put them together. We put different things in, and I went to Clone Wars Season 7, the episode Shattered. It's just before the very last episode. Mm-hmm. And of course it shows Order 66 with, Rex and the crew on that Star Destroyer as they're going back to Coruscant with Maul. And of course Ahsoka experiences it. And I wanted to see it. And of course, by the end of that episode, she, has the help of those 3 droids, and she gets him into a medical bay and has that chip removed. Well, our heroes here, the Bad Batch, don't know about that, right? And so I think it's it's Tech being Tech, right? He's brilliant, and he's like, man, we need to check this out, because this could be a real problem, especially if something else happens, or if something goes wrong at a later date with these. Their Order 66 kicks in at some later time. So it was chilling to go back and watch that again. I loved it when you and I first reviewed it, and still do, but wanted to see that again. But that's what I agree with what you said, that it's going to be kind of the beginning of them figuring out where it is, and potentially, having it all removed from them. Right. We've talked about Rex being in this. He already has gone through Seleucami and talked to Cut LaQuaine, and so I'm sure when they meet up with him, he's going to probably show him the side of his head, and say, hey, this, Ahsoka Tano helped me do this. So this is really cool, the beginnings of this, and I like how you introduced it.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Now, I want to talk Tech for a minute. Because we all have our favorite characters from the Bad Batch. We've discussed this many times when we reviewed the last season of Clone Wars, and of course when we kicked off the Bad Batch series. We love Wrecker. But Tech is annoying the snot out of me right now. How many times do you have to be pointed out that you could have given us the information do you not start volunteering information?
Right.
First it was Chip, what do you mean? What Chip? He goes, well, yeah, how do you think they were programming us? Duh. In the episode with Cutler Kane, or in this one, it's probably this dragon, the moon dragon that took the repeat part. They're all around here. You think you could have told us that? I mean, just little things like that. It's I don't know. He's getting to me, man. He's getting to me.
Well, I've heard people compare him to C-3PO, and even Matt Lanter in a recent interview, the voice of Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars. He compared Tech to C-3PO. And I thought, yeah, that's perfect. C-3PO can be incredibly annoying, particularly to Han Solo. And so there you go. Tech is your C-3PO.
Yeah, he is my C-3PO, that's for sure. But yeah, I don't know. He just, I don't know, whatever. Well, let's move on here. We see at Tarkin, we meet Admiral Rampart. And he fits the mold of an Imperial character. He's got that almost arrogant build to him. He's straight, clean-faced. I mean, he just has that arrogant swagger about him in his project. And we find out that, he's working on Operation War Mantle. And, of course, Operation War Mantle, of course, we heard about in Rogue One, when they are going through all the files looking for the Death Star plans. When they're there on Scarif, War Mantle is one of the operations, one of the files that gets mentioned. But we discover the purpose of War Mantle is this conscripting of civilians into the service, and not using the clones. And quite interesting, personally. I think this is something that we've always wondered, how they go from clones to stormtroopers who hit their heads on the doors and they can't hit the broadside of a barn. It's been curious to see how that played out. And we're actually getting to see that, which to me is an awesome thing to do. To me, it was the one redeeming thing about this episode, was getting to see the start of this program. And I love how it's working out. We get this unique group of stormtroopers, which are there, and they all have modified clone armor on, and we get to see them without their buckets, and we get to see a bunch of different faces, male and female troopers. Awesome to see, and of course they're placed under the command of Crosshair. Seeing Operation War Mantle come into play, how do you feel about that, David?
I'm with you. This is to me the redeeming quality of this particular episode, no question. It's my favorite part, and listening to Lama Su, who is the Prime Minister of Kamino, he's making an argument for clones over conscripted recruits, and it's interesting to watch, Tarkin look at this, and Rampart. I looked at the credits. He's Vice Admiral Rampart, and I believe he's promoted to Admiral by Tarkin by the end. And I think Tarkin's an Admiral as well. He's not Grand Tarkin at this point, right? Right?
Correct.
Okay. So this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out, and it does show that they're going a half step, right? They're not going to completely get rid of the clones, but they're not completely going to the conscripted soldiers. But ultimately, we know that that's where they head. There could be a lot of stuff going on here, and more conflict between these conscripted, recruited soldiers and the clone ones. The tension between Crosshair and the one guy, I think they called him ES-01, Elite Squad Member 1. That was tense. That was really well done. But like you, I'm liking to see it. I love the little touches, though, like you mentioned, Operation War Mantle, and tying into Rogue One. So those are neat things to see. But I'm this angle of Lama Su and Nala Se there on Camino, and kind of where they are as kind of a third crew that's not rebellion, not with the Empire necessarily, and kind of looking out for their own skins. I love this angle, and of course they hinted at it, and I think season 6 and 7 of the Clone Wars. So very cool, very cool. So yes, enjoying it.
Very good, very good. And I'm glad you brought up what was it, ES1 or the dissenting trooper
Yes.
Against Crosshair, because we actually get to see something that we always heard, we saw a little bit of in the Clone Wars, not a lot, but we saw a little bit of it, which is the almost the innate prejudice against the clones. Where the clones are, their clones are clones. They're there to fight. They're not. They don't consider them real people, and we see that almost immediately from this particular trooper. As soon as he's on Camino and placed under the command of the clone of Crosshair, because even on the shuttle when they're on their way to their mission, he's like, "Enjoy your stint as commander. It's not going to last long." It's just little digs like that. He doesn't refer to him as Sir or Commander or anything like that. He just refers to him as Clone. The Clone. There's that innate prejudice against the clone, so that we get a glimpse of again. Did you catch onto that, and how did you feel about that, if you did?
Yeah, definitely. And this caused me to go back and watch the very first aired episode, not the Clone Wars movie, but aired episode, which was Ambush. It's not chronologically, as you and I know, the first episode of Star Wars Clone Wars. But I went back and watched that, and watched Yoda's interaction with those 3 clones as, they battle through all those battle droids and super battle droids and rollers and all of Asajj Ventress's machinations to get to King Katunko, and prove that he should join the Republic. That was neat to go back and watch that, and to see Yoda doesn't see them that way, that prejudice against them. So yes, I kind of went back, like I said, and just was watching different episodes from previous seasons because of the stuff I was seeing in this episode. But I'll say this, this ESO1, the dissenting soldier, there's an old saying, I think Mike Tyson said it, everyone talks a big game until they get hit in the jaw. and this guy was talking a big game, and Crosshair's just looking at him, and just like Mike Tyson, and boy, he more than hit him in the jaw. So
he definitely did, because we actually see, and I'm glad you threw this in the notes too. We get to see some pretty intense violence in this episode. It's not an action-packed episode at all, but there is the scene there at the end where they're on Onderon. They've basically captured the shuttle and ambushed Saw Gerrera's people, and they begin to Crosshair begins to interrogate them, and he's like, "Yeah, tell me where Saw Gerrera is." And the girl's like, "Yeah, I don't know. I have no clue where he is. But even if I did, I wouldn't tell you." And next thing you know, Crosshair just shoots her, and she falls to the ground. He goes, "Yeah, I believe you. I believe you." Then turns to the others and like, "We don't know. We just were promised passage off of here, off the planet." And Crosshair's like, "Yeah, well, then you aren't really worth anything to the Empire, then, are you?" And orders their execution. And this is where it gets interesting, because you begin to see the difference between stormtroopers who are the conscripted stormtroopers who have their own train of thought and the clones who are programmed to follow orders.
Right.
And ESO1 steps up and he's like, no, we are not murderers. We are not going to kill these civilians. He's like, don't listen to the clone. Take him into custody. We'll take him back to Camino for interrogating. We're not going to murder him. And then we see, then it gets, to me, probably the most interesting part is Crosshair says, you know why they put me in command? Because I'll do what it takes to complete the mission. And then he shoots the guy. And then all he says is, good soldiers follow orders. And that's it. And he tells the others, complete the mission. And they, next thing you know, as Crosshair's walking away, you hear blaster fire, flamethrower, and everybody dies. They followed orders. This was a surprise for me, to put it mildly. I mean, we've seen, battles. We've seen people die in Star Wars. We saw it in Rebels. We've seen clones die in Clone Wars. It's nothing new, but never in this type of almost genocidal attack. Have we seen? I mean, we've been hinted at it with Resistance, with the children of Tehar, when all Tehar have been destroyed and the kids are the only two left. But then we get this scene, and it's just very different, especially for an animated show. How did you feel about this happening in this episode, in this scene in particular?
Well, that's why I want to bring it up, because when I saw the scene. And even on the small screen, my phone. But then when I came home and watched it on the big screen, I'm like, wait, were there 3 civilians down there on the ground? No, there was 4, and you see them there, and as soon as they panned away, and you could hear not just the blaster fire, but the flame, that flamethrower. I'm like, I was like, wow, and I immediately thought, and Aaron, you said it, of our coverage of Resistance. And like you and I said, it wasn't really well received. People didn't like Kaz, the bumbling, recruit, and silliness. And again, you and I know that the creators of Star Wars said this is for, kids 7 to 12, but you and I always tried to introduce an interesting concept here and there. And just like you said, I immediately thought about the children of Tehar, and you and I covering that. Now, young kids, 7 to 12, aren't going to get it, but you and I are like, holy crow, they're talking about genocide of a people group. And now here, clearly, the Clone Wars is, I would say, not for 7 to 12-year-olds. This particular scene, I would like kids older than that I would like kids to be older to watch that particular scene. Everything else, pretty good, but yeah, that, civilians on their knees, just with no defense, and seeing that level of violence, I was like, wow. And I put it in the show notes. I don't remember, really having it that close. It's one thing for the episode of Resistance to kind of talk about it. Here we saw them on the ground, again, with no weapons, and then we hear them being killed. And I was like, wow, they really upped the ante here. And maybe I've heard people say it was in the service of conveying, look at how bad Crosshair is, and look at the lengths the Empire will go, like Tarkin, right? They ran Crosshair through that machine again to try to amplify that inhibitor chip. So, I honestly, to be honest, I would love to not see that level of violence or that in the Clone Wars, but just my take.
Understand. It's very, like I said, it's a lot to take in. So
yeah,
that's why I wanted to ask. Let's talk about. I mean, we've been talking a lot about Tarkin and the new squad and Crosshair. But we haven't really talked about the actual Bad Batch and their crash ship that much. In the wreck, Wrecker gets hurt. He bangs his head, and of course we see him struggling and having issues. He's complaining, his head is hurting, and Hunter tells him to go rest. And we got this creature that stole this capacitor because apparently he's attracted to electricity and electrical items. And when it was attached to the ship, it was generating light and electricity and stuff. Which as soon as he pulled it out, it stopped. So why didn't it just drop it and walk away? I don't know, but made for a show. Right. But we see some interesting dynamic. We see still some of that character growth between Hunter and Omega, because Hunter's like, you know what, Echo, Tech, y'all keep fixing the ship, get all the other systems ready. Wrecker, you just rest. And he's like, I'm going to go find this part. And Omega's like, I'll go with you. And he's like, and she's like, I'm a member of the crew, I'm part of the squad now, let me go. And he just opens up and lets her go. He doesn't tell her no. He tells her it's going to be dangerous, but he lets her go. Yeah, that's something I had an issue with. I'm not going to walk into a dangerous situation with a kid that's going to cause me to, that I'm going to have to watch out for and not be on my A game.
Sure.
So I had an issue with the decision to bring her on, and ultimately the decision paid off because he gets disabled by the moon dragon, and she ends up saving the day by crawling down a hole, following the dragon, and finds him and switches. Pretty much plays the role of basically just trades him out per se. The flashlight for this capacitor, and he's attracted to the flashlight because the flashlight has light and is generating electricity. That's why he goes for it. And I think she realizes that. How she realizes that, I don't know. It could be observation. Could be that, I got some other theories, but we don't speculate, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But there's some interesting, there's an issue of how she figured that out. And she ends up throwing the flashlight and getting past her and escapes. And they go back to the ship and live happily ever after till the next episode. But this whole issue with him bringing her along, even trying to be a father figure and her being a member of the crew, this to put me out of the story, because nobody in that situation is going to take a child that could be with them on a hunt, that for especially a hunt that they're hunting something you really don't know what it is, and it could be dangerous. You're not going to take a kid who's going to possibly limit your abilities, because you're going to be worried about protecting them as well.
Well, you're thinking too logically, and you're thinking like a psychologist. So, yeah, we.
Wow, did we switch roles tonight? I am not doing the psychology corner. I'm telling you that right now.
Oh man, I thought I could rope you into it. No, you and I've covered, Mandalorian season 2, right? And I talked about the parenting. It was interesting as you were talking about Omega, crawling down into one of those holes. I'm not sure Hunter could have fit, and it made me think about the episode of The Mandalorian where it opens up, where the Mandalorian's looking in, and he's told Baby Yoda to go in and attach the blue to the red wire. No, the red to the blue, and Baby Yoda just kind of putting them together and goes, and things start smoking and stuff. And again, as a psychologist, and of course you and I as parents, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, Mandalorian, if I would recommend you having your child play with electrical wires. This is just not good stuff. And it's kind of, like I said, if I'm with you on it. You're 100% right. You would never have a boy or a girl that age. I don't care the sex of the child. They would not come out with you. They wouldn't come out with Hunter. I just wonder if they wanted to try to change it up a little bit in terms of, the typical trope, like I mentioned, is they tell the kid, the boy or girl, no. They sneak out of the house. They sneak out of the spaceship anyways, and it ends up getting all tangled up, and then it all works out in the end, But no, there's completely agree with you. I just kind of did the suspension of disbelief, and stuff like that to kind of through it. But I get what you're saying. I've talked about, Mandalorian keeping Baby Yoda out of trouble, like the episode where he drops him off and he goes to school while they go infiltrate the Imperial fortress there. And you and I talked about that episode, The Mandalorian. Absolutely. That's protecting the child and, younger kids. So, yeah, it's an issue. And I'm guessing it probably did take people out of it,
Yeah. I mean, I would almost have preferred the leave them behind and the kids sneak out, because then I could have related to it.
Yeah.
Not that I ever snuck out. I have never snuck out, but I was a good boy. Legit, I really was. I never snuck out at all. But I could relate to that story more than the guy who's trying to be the protective father for this kid, taking him into a dangerous situation willingly.
Right.
Especially when you have 3 people on the ship to watch them. I mean, it was so out of character that it literally, the character they've been building over the last 2 episodes, to me, this went completely against. This decision was completely against the character they were trying to me, build. So,
and you're talking Hunter.
Yes,
yeah.
Hunter.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, Hunter as the father figure. It just, Hunter taking Omega out into the wild just went against, to me, what the character they've been sculpting in the first 2 episodes. So, especially in the second episode, he was so concerned about her safety and what she needed, he was willing to send her away with Cut and his family. So, but now you're just going to walk her right into a battlefield with strange creatures that you don't know what they are. Yeah, don't buy it.
I feel like my job is done here. You are not only a wonderful father, but a great psychologist now.
I am far from that, my friend. I am, psychologist part maybe, but I'm sure my kids will disagree with the great father part, but we'll leave it at that. So anything else before we close out our talking points, David?
No, I feel good about what we've covered, my friend.
Excellent. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with our final thoughts, our grades, and David's all-new Psychology Corner. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We are wrapping up our discussion of Replacements, which was the third episode of the Bad Batch. I had lost my train of thought there for a second. Replacements. We're going to go into our final thoughts there. David, why don't you kick us off with your final thoughts?
Yeah. For me, I did like, and we've hit on this in our different talking points, that it does give us some character development. I do like Wrecker. I kind of, we all saw this coming, him becoming Uncle Wrecker, like he was to Cut LaQuane's children in the last episode. So we see some character development there, and of course his head hurting. It'll be interesting to see where that goes, the headaches, and the banter and between Echo and Tech and the different characters. I do like that. Like you said, there's a step back for Hunter in terms of character development, but overall, I liked seeing Omega and her being part of the squad, having her own little spot there in the back of the Marauder, right, their ship. The development of Rampart. This guy, like you said, it's going to be interesting to see how he develops and how does he ultimately disappear. I wonder if Tarkin's going to be disappointed and make him a scapegoat like he did Krennic, in Rogue One. But also, like I mentioned, I love seeing the character development of the Kaminoans. The conversations between Lama Su and Nala Se, I really like those and have enjoyed those, and I want to see more of that. I really like seeing Tarkin and Kamino, seeing him there after Order 66. I just think that's really cool. Watching Tarkin and Rampart discuss a modified approach to how they're going to do their army and stuff. Pretty cool stuff. And then I guess I didn't realize. I guess I'm wrapping back around to Lama Su, the Prime Minister Kamino. I didn't realize that they would become that desperate. I guess over years and years and years of providing clones and the Republic paying for it, I guess it goes to show how much they came to rely on the big government contract. I am curious to see what this will lead, both Lama Su and Nala Se, what it'll lead them to do in terms of trying to get more DNA or create this ideal clone and so on. But that's an interesting sideline. And quite honestly, it's that stuff on Kamino for this episode which has me put it at a B+. If that wasn't in there, I'd be lower, like B minus. But B+ because of I just, like I said, I'm loving Tarkin and Rampart, Nala Su, Lama Se, Lama Su and Nala Se on Kamino. So those are pretty redeeming qualities for this episode. But yeah, B+ overall for the grade.
Very good, very good. Yeah, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I thought this was okay. The replacements gave us some interesting backstory and character growth, and I do believe it's giving us the setup for Crosshair's redemption story. I mean, at the end, we see him sitting in the old Bad Batch bunk room on Kamino, surrounded by the other members of his new experimental squad, and he almost has this longing in his face, and to me it kind of mirrored the end of the Honorable Ones from Rebels, with Agent Callus sitting alone in his cabin on the Star Destroyer. It gave me that same kind of feel, and I believe we're starting to see his redemption come into play here. And it'll be a journey, of course, and we'll see him do more bad before he goes good. But I believe that's what we're going to see is the forward of redemption, and we got to see it start in this episode. Like I said, I did struggle a lot with basically we had the two storylines in the episode. One I really was into, which was, of course, the new squad, the experimental squad of conscripted troops, and, of course, what was happening on Kamino. Then we have what's happening with the Bad Batch. The Bad Batch storyline I struggled with tremendously. I couldn't buy into it. There was, as a parent, there's stuff that, I couldn't get into it, man. To me, in my opinion, the reverse on Hunter's character of just letting him go, letting Omega go instead of protecting Omega, the decision to just let him voluntarily go instead of stay on the ship, make her stay on the ship and let her sneak out. Those are all story. I mean, those are definitely story ideas that they decided in the story when they were writing it to do, and why they did that, I will never know. But it didn't work for me. So I definitely struggled. I mean, overall, it was an episode. It was an episode. It was an okay episode. I can go ahead and tell you right now, this episode will not be in my top 5 for best Bad Batch episodes by the time the season's over. I will put money on it right now. It will not be in my top 5. And I've been going back and forth on the grade all day, and literally all weekend since I saw it. But to flat out hammer it down, I'm going to have to give it a C+.
Whoa. Ooh, Aaron doesn't usually do this, people. He's usually nicer than I am.
It's harsh for me to give a C. I think I've given, in all the years I've been podcasting, I've done maybe 1 C, 2 C's maybe. And I think they were both Resistance episodes.
Yeah.
But this was just, I struggled with the story in this one. And there are other people that disagree with me. I've heard some other opinions about the episode where they absolutely loved it, thought it was great. More power to them. I'm glad you got into it. It just, it wasn't mine. It wasn't me. So I'm looking forward to this Friday to be bought back into the episode.
Yeah. So, and you and I have done this long enough that, they'll, put another really good one in there and get us going again. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm going to say it right now. No, I do not feel this was any type of filler episode. This actually was a story progressive episode. They had continued with some storylines, and some of them I felt they did great with. The main storyline, I felt they kind of shot in the foot. But it is what it is. So. All right. Let us know what you think of Replacements. You can, of course, email us, show@starwarsreactions.com. You can hit us up on Twitter, SWReactionsPod. You can hit us up on Instagram, SWReactions, and our brand new Facebook page, SW Reactions. Remember to go to Facebook and give us a like. We're having to rebuild that page from scratch since they took down our other one for some unknown forsaken reason. It fell into a black hole. So get over there, give us a like. We appreciate that as we try to build our presence back up there. But for now, let's close things out, David, with your all-new Psychology Corner, buddy. It's all yours. Take it away.
All right, brother. So earlier today, I did something that I hadn't done before, but I thought it would be helpful. I did send a tweet out, and you were on it and retweeted it from our Star Wars Reactions Twitter account, and I was very thankful to Dan Z for retweeting it from his account and from the Coffee with Kenobi account, just to let people know. And I thought I wanted people to know this, just to kind of give them a heads up and maybe build some anticipation. And I tweeted out that I would be covering, a pretty common anxiety disorder called obsessive compulsive disorder. It's also known as OCD for short. And I thought, I've been looking for a place to be able to discuss this. And just like Aaron had mentioned earlier, and we've seen it, in previous seasons of the Clone Wars, this famous saying, good soldiers follow orders. I'd mentioned earlier in this episode that I went back and watched Ambush from season 1 of Clone Wars. I went back to season 7 and watched Shattered. When Ahsoka deals with Rex and the troopers turning on her. I also wanted to go back to, it would be season 6 of the Clone Wars. Those were called the Lost Missions. And it shows, I believe, Clone Trooper Tup shooting and killing Tipley or Tiplar. I didn't double check because I didn't get a chance to watch that episode again. But that's when we hear Tup say, good soldiers follow orders. And so we've been seeing this. And I thought, OCD is not mind control. Okay, that's not what it is. Like we see with the inhibitor chips in the clones. But I'll tell you this: after working with a large number of clients with OCD, it can be said that to them it feels like the obsessions and compulsions control them. It can be miserable. So I thought, it'd be kind of a loose association. It's not like being mesmerized or hypnotized and you're controlled and so on and so forth. But I just thought, like I said, it's kind of a loose association. When I've heard all these different clone troopers say good soldiers follow orders, I do think about the OCD brain. And I thought, again, it's an anxiety disorder that I've very much wanted to cover for our listeners. And it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's good to, again, learn more about, depression and anxiety and so forth. So let's go through this. Let's give people some background. Again, we're not going to bore them to tears and not have them read, the amount of material I read in grad school and since grad school on anxiety and so on. But let's give a little bit of background here. First, I want to give a definition of obsessions. All right. They are intrusive, unwelcome, distressing thoughts and mental images. Okay. And the word obsession comes from the Latin words to besiege. And again, clients describe that they feel besieged by their thoughts. I kind of visualize that with, Crosshair and the other clones, that they seem besieged by their thoughts. But again, not the same thing as mind control, but there we go. So, I wanted to give you a definition of obsessions. Let me read off to you some of the types of obsessions or thoughts that people can have, kind of the subject matter. We can have obsessions about dirt and contamination. We can have obsessive thoughts about the need for order or symmetry. Obsessions or thoughts about hoarding or saving. Obsessions with sexual content, repetitive rituals, nonsensical doubts. I've worked with clients who have obsessions about religious rituals. Okay. Also, there's people who have obsessions about aggressive content and so on. Some people also have obsessions, thoughts about superstitious fears. Like, for example, the belief that certain numbers or colors are lucky or unlucky. So there's kind of a little quick background on obsessions. Now let's talk about compulsions. Okay. Here's the definition for them. They are behaviors that people with OCD perform in a vain attempt to get rid of the fears and anxieties caused by their obsessions. It really sets off a vicious cycle. I was going to give people a quick example of hand washing. Okay, this vicious cycle, and I've worked with people before. Like, I've had people come into my office and I look at their hands, and they've been washed so many times, the skin is cracking, and you can see them bleeding a little bit. And when I've worked with these clients, one of the things that happens is this. They have the obsession, the thought that their hands are contaminated. And if it continues and they don't wash their hands, they'll get a horrible disease and die. So what do? They wash their hands. And here's the trick with OCD and with all of anxiety. When a person washes their hands, their anxiety goes down a little bit. I point this out to all my clients. The anxiety doesn't go down and go away completely. But when any human, anxiety and depression are noxious. So if there's anything that decreases that depression or anxiety, decreases that noxiousness, we'll do it. So that little drop in anxiety starts to lock that behavior in of washing hands, right? And so a little bit later, I'll talk about ways to break that vicious cycle. But I wanted to give that as an example of it's a very subtle, very slick way that OCD gets us to get into a vicious cycle of thought, behavior, thought, behavior, thought, behavior. Okay. Let me give some examples of some of these compulsions. And I'll tell you where I'm getting these from. It's from a book I'm looking at. Now I'll give people the name of the book here in a minute. Here's some examples of some compulsions: cleaning or washing, like washing hands or even showering, stuff like that. Compulsions about having things just right. That's kind of like the compulsive, the obsessive thoughts of keeping things organized and neat and everything just so leads to these compulsions of ordering and moving things to have them just right. compulsions to check. I have people who will check their oven. They'll check the doors on the house at night. Like not once or twice, like maybe we should all do. Yes, check the oven, make sure it's not on, right? We don't want that. But we don't need to check 40, 50, 60 times the doors to the house or the oven. But that's what we call checking compulsions. There's a lot of other compulsions like blinking or staring rituals, asking over and over for reassurance, counting compulsions. I had a client of mine who, this is 5-10 years ago, he said that whenever he got off on an exit, he would always have to count to 10, and 10 would have to be when he got to the stop sign to then turn right or left off of that exit. So anyways, there's just a feel for, obsessions and compulsions, okay? So one of the things I want to point out too, after giving people some background to more, to better understand this psychological disorder, one of the things we keep in mind is this, is with many mental disorders, and I've mentioned this before, and Aaron knows this, and our listeners do, we look at the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, and we look to see, does any disorder cause clinically significant impairment, generally in 3 areas: how that person is interacting with others socially, how they are occupationally, aka their job, or if they're a student, does it significantly affect their academic functioning, right? So we don't diagnose people with OCD if it's not clinically significantly impairing their life. So I wanted people to know that. Now, I wanted to, this is just a very quick overview on anxiety and really OCD. So what I'm going to share right now, it applies to all the anxiety disorders in essence. When I think about generalized anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, separation anxiety, various phobias, triskaidekaphobias, right? Fear of the number 13, arachnophobia, right? The movie, fear of spiders, acrophobia, fear of heights, so on. This is the overview of anxiety that I tell people. Anxiety, all these anxiety disorders want us to avoid various things, avoid various situations, avoid life. And all of anxiety wants to shrink our world. And so one of the first things I talk about with people is the importance of approaching things that are fearful to them, even when they want to avoid. Because then here's the second component of anxiety, not just approach versus avoidance, but good versus bad learning. Going back to the hand washing example, when people wash their hands, there's bad learning. What do they learn? That's bad. Well, wait a minute. I washed my hands and my anxiety went down. And I'm like, no. Yeah, you learned it went down, but not much. And that locks that behavior in. The good behavior we want is from when people approach things that make them anxious. They approach it, the thing or the situation, and they have good learning. They learn, oh, wait a minute, my anxiety went up, but then it went down. That's the kind of good learning we want. One of the third things I wanted to point out in terms of an anxiety overview and how to deal with OCD is the primary way to address this is something we call ERP. All right, in clinical psychology, this is exposure and response prevention. It's exposing people to the thing that increases their anxiety, but then we do a response prevention. We prevent them from doing what they want to do. Again, let me go back to the hand washing example. What I've done with people is we get their hands dirty. They wipe the bottom of the soles of their feet. So anybody listening to this who has OCD is like, oh my gosh, Dave Motters, why are you saying that? You have them wipe their hands on the floor, a dirty doorknob, etc. But the response prevention, Aaron, is where we have the person not wash their hands. The typical response is to wash the hands. But when the person doesn't wash their hands, good learning occurs, which is what? They learn, wait, my anxiety goes up, but then ultimately, wait a minute, my anxiety went down and I didn't die of a horrible disease. Okay? Now, the definitions of obsessions and compulsions and just my general overall discussion about this is from the book Brain Lock. This is a book by Jeffrey Schwartz. He's an MD. He's a psychiatrist there, and he's treated, thousands, not a few hundred. He has treated thousands of people with OCD at the UCLA School of Medicine. And his book here is called Brain Lock, Free Yourself from Obsessive Compulsive Behavior, a 4-step self-treatment method to change your brain chemistry. And I've used this a ton, and it's just outstanding. And I would recommend it because I've read it multiple times, and I always look to see if something would be an easy read for my clients. And the way that Dr. Schwartz wrote this book was excellent, very understandable. He even has a few Far Side cartoons in it, which is just incredible. Yeah, anybody who's suffering with OCD and is fearful about going to see a therapist or counselor, you name it, they could do the 4 steps within BrainLock and really improve their life. So we're gonna, in shows to come, I'm sure I'll come back around to this and share more about OCD. But I thought this was kind of the perfect time to introduce this to our listeners and cover a really pretty common anxiety disorder that unfortunately a lot of Americans are dealing with.
Very good. Very good. Love it. Love it. I am not OCD about washing my hands.
Nice.
To my wife's dismay.
He's like, will you wash them once a week, please?
Yeah. It's like, but very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you so much, David. All right, everybody. If they want to talk more with you or ask you questions about your Psychology Corner or about Star Wars in general, David, how would somebody go about doing that?
Absolutely. I love talking Star Wars, love talking psychology. The 2 places are the same. One is Twitter at David_Modders, Modders. And the email address is my name, David, at StarWarsReactions.com.
Very good. Very good. If you want to talk Star Wars with me, and if you want to talk to me more about my C+ rating for the episode, don't hesitate to hit me up. You can always email me, Aaron, at StarWarsReactions.com. Or, of course, Twitter's usually best. Twitter is at TAHarris121079. So go ahead and hit us up there, okay? Thank you, everybody, for listening. David, this has been a blast as always, my friend.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, we always make it fun. And even if an episode isn't quite as good, we can still have fun with some talking points and with the Psychology Corner.
Absolutely. It always is a blast, and we do want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. We appreciate each and every one of you and continue to pray that you are healthy and safe and doing well. So definitely take care. Tune in next week when we look at episode 4 of The Bad Batch. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.